Hi guys, welcome back to Seedlings, the beginner's guide to everything homegrown. Today we talk about the top 5 ways of keeping your orchard happy, or top 5 tips for growing orchids. Alright, let's take a look at an orchid. Okay, we can usually identify orchids by their flowers or their really dense, broad leaves. Okay, orchids are usually grown in tropical environments. So when we grow orchids at home, we want to replicate the environments that orchids are found in nature. Okay, so let's get to the top 5 tips. Okay. All right, as we've mentioned, whatever we do, we want to replicate what happens in nature. So, because orchids love tropical environments, we want to replicate that even in our homes. Okay, so my sister actually tried this and she took our orchid and she placed it by the windowsill. Okay, so what happens is that when we bath, the steam rises and keeps our room humid, the bathroom humid. Okay, so that helps the orchid because it loves, tip number 1, humid, warm environments. Okay, so that helped a lot, and I actually recommend it because our orchid is happy, it's flourishing, guys, it's flourishing. Okay, so I recommend anybody who's growing orchids and doesn't have a humid environment, so the air is very dry, that could really help. Okay, tip number 2 on keeping your orchids moist in a humid environment would be keeping pebbles at the base of your orchid. Of course, damp pebbles at the base of your orchid or small little rocks. Okay, orchids are found in nature at the base of trees, so that does in a way replicate its original state to nature. Okay, tip number 2 on how to keep your orchids happy and successful growing orchids. All right, tip number 2 is that orchids require light, and that of course is a necessity for all plants. Orchid in this instance is slightly different, okay, and that orchids require light, yes, but not direct sunlight. So we'd like to keep our orchids by a windowsill in a well-lit room. But those are the top 2, a windowsill or a well-lit room. And this could really help in, firstly, getting blooms coming out. If your orchid doesn't get light, it cannot produce pretty flowers. Okay, so ensure that your orchid is getting at least 6 hours of light a day. If your house is fairly dark, try by your veranda or your porch to keep your orchids there, but do ensure it doesn't get bright sunlight. Create some sort of covering to make sure it doesn't receive the bright sunlight. It is pretty fragile, so do keep that in mind. Tip number 3 is that orchids require very little water. I cannot emphasize that enough. Orchids require very little water, and that you will kill your orchid by overwatering it, but you will save your orchid by underwatering it. Very tricky, you might ask. How do we get that balance right? Okay, so if you feel the soil, I'm actually trying to show you. If you feel your soil a little bit, okay, feeding your soil, you could feel if it's damp or if it's dry, just by the very feeling, just by feeling it. Okay, and the rule of thumb is that if you're thinking about watering your orchid, wait 2 days. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. If you are thinking about watering your orchid, wait 2 days. Chances are your orchid isn't yet completely dry, or it isn't needing water as of yet. Okay, so you're thinking about watering your orchid, wait 2 days. Okay, and then water your orchid. Another tip would be completely soak your orchid, not soak it in water, but make sure you water your orchid in a way that water comes out of the bottom. Okay, so you know our orchid has drainage holes, even if it's in a vase. I'm going to take it out of this container just to show you. Just hold on for 2 seconds. It's not exactly coming out. Okay, there it is, there it is. Container of our orchid. And at the base, we've got drainage holes. Okay, so when you water your orchid, you want the water to go all the way in and come all the way out at the bottom. That's when you know your orchid has gotten sufficient water. And we only water orchids once a week. Okay, we only ever water orchids once a week. If you notice as well, is that another medium for growing orchids is keeping box, tree box, okay? Instead of using garden soil, don't use garden soil for your orchid. That is a no-no. Don't use garden soil for your orchids, okay? I cannot stress that enough, okay? So we either use tree box or moss or trying to think of another medium to grow our orchids in. People have different mediums, yes, but don't use garden cross. I can't emphasize it enough. Don't use garden soil. It's often pretty dense, and orchids love to breathe. They love well-circulated environments that allows them to breathe, okay? And dense soil isn't exactly the best medium for growing orchids, okay? Another tip is that we never want to water the leaves of our orchids. Never, never, never. That will just lead to rot. We never water as well the crown of our orchid. Okay, the crown is where the leaves come out from. Okay, so this is our crown. There we go. This is our crown. Okay, so we never water the crown of the orchid. We will water the base of the orchid. Okay. Tip number, what tip are we on? Tip number 4. I hope I've mentioned everything. Okay, we water the base of our orchid, never the leaves. Okay, make sure water comes right out of the drainage holes. Never the leaves, that will just lead to rot. We don't want rotting. Never the crown, that will lead to crown rot. Okay. So yes, I think I've mentioned it all. Water your orchid once a week, once a month. Use liquid fertilizer. Orchids get hungry, okay? The same way we get hungry as humans, our orchids also get hungry. Okay, tip number 3. Tip number 3, give your orchids, okay, so let's just go through it again because I think I forgot as well, but you know, what number we are on. Tip number 1, give your orchids warm, humid environments. Tip number 2, give your orchids good sunlight. Tip number 3, orchids require very little water. So we're on tip number 4. Tip number 4 on how to keep your orchids happy. Tip number 4 is that, as you can see, oh sorry, this is like a little dead leaf. Okay, flower, sorry. Is that this orchid has outgrown this container. Okay, if you cannot see that, the roots of the orchid are above the soil. Okay, so as soon as you see that, you know your orchid has outgrown its container. But I cannot transplant it because, as you can see, it is still blooming. Okay, so I have to wait until the orchid completely stops blooming for me to transplant it into a larger container. I'm going to show you now when is the right time to transplant your orchid. Okay, this is the moth orchid. Okay, as you can tell again, how to identify this is an orchid by its broad, dense, very thick leaves. Okay, there is no flowers on this, so you cannot tell by looking at its flowers. Okay, so this orchid has went out of its flowering stage, and as you can see, all that is left is the stalk which the flowers were coming out of. Okay, so going back to tip number 4, orchids can be replanted, should be replanted because their roots love to breathe, okay, in a larger container, but you cannot, okay, I'm going to emphasize that you cannot transplant your orchid while it's still blooming. You have to wait until all the blooms have fallen off. Okay, it will reach a stage which we call the orchid's resting period. Okay, people often think this is when orchids die. No, orchids last at least 100 years. Okay, so orchids go through a resting period. That is, put all its energy back into growing as it needs to grow for its next season. Okay, so sorry, I'm just trying to think. For its next season. Okay, so I've kept this here in an optimistic light. I'll touch on that in tip number 5. Okay, but the tip for this is that you will only transplant it into a bigger medium when its flowers have completely fallen off, just like this one over here. Okay, going back to our orchid. All right, some people get worried when they start to see the orchid leaves start to fall off. No, don't get worried. Okay, orchid leaves have to fall off, and this is because its blooming season is about to end. So it's about to enter its rest period. So all the flowers and all the stalks that were up and keeping the flower during its blooming season will then enter a season where, if I can call it, a dormant season, where it looks completely dormant. Okay, and all that is happening is that it's preparing for the next season of flowering. Okay, so I cannot transplant it now because it is blooming. Moving on to tip number 5 on how to keep your orchids happy. So tip number 5 is that you could either keep these stalks, okay, so let me go back to the previous orchid in its resting phase, okay, you can either keep the stalk or you can remove it, okay, always remove at the base if you are removing, at the very base of this orchid, all right. I have kept this here because this orchid, I am optimistic that in the next flowering season, this orchid will begin to flower from. Okay, so this is our stalk. We could cut it off at the very base. If not, we can leave it on and hope, which in some cases happens, that new flowers or blooms will come out of here and a new one might emerge, okay, from its crown. Okay, so we have touched on 5 tips on keeping your orchid happy. Please remember to like, to comment if you just bought an orchid now. Let me know if this is your first orchid. Second of all, like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Let's grow, let's keep our orchids happy together.